Hello and welcome to the Carlin Cymru AS level business, and I'll be talking you through a few sessions. We're going to be looking at Unit 1 in these sessions. I'm going to start off with business enterprise and then go on to business planning. So they're the two that we're going to be looking at in this session. So looking at enterprise and what SMEs are. So enterprise is your term that you can apply to any business and is the starting point for any new business. So there are 4 factors of production. So there's land, labour, capital and entrepreneurial skills. And we're looking for, with enterprise, is willingness to undertake new ventures and show initiative with a view to gain rewards. And quite often those rewards are things like profit. Not every single business's aim is to gain as much profit as possible, but that is the majority of what businesses want to do. So what are SMEs? So SMEs are small to medium-sized enterprises, so business. And this is defined by a number of factors. So one of the factors is employees. Next one is turnover, and it's also net worth, and that's shown on the balance sheet. Now, your net worth is your assets take away about any liability. So anything you owe anybody is what your net worth is. The European Union classification of businesses size is shown below. Okay, so this is what the European Union classify as sort of SMEs, if you like. Okay, so you've got micro businesses, and these are the number of employees which is less than 10. Turnover in euros is less than 2 million, and net worth shown on balance sheet is less than 2 million. So if your business falls in that category, you're then classed as a micro business. Small businesses, our number of employees are less than 50. Your turnover is less than 10 million in euros, and your net worth is less than 10 million on your balance sheet. So if you fit within that category, then you are looking at being a small business. Medium businesses is any business that has less than 250 employees with a turnover of less than 50 million in euros, and your net worth shown on your balance sheet is 43 million. And if you fall within that category, you are classed as a medium business. So, looking first of all, what is an entrepreneur? Now, if you did GCSE, you'll probably know what an entrepreneur is quite easily. That's the first thing that you would have learned at GCSE. But just to recap, it's a person who spots any opportunity and shows initiative, willingness to take risks in order to benefit from potential rewards. So that's what your entrepreneur is. Now, entrepreneurs make use of resources available to them to set up or develop a business, and by creating and setting up a business starts with an idea. Now, these are results on maybe brainstorming, maybe personal experience, maybe there's something in your local community that you feel is missing, that you've spotted a gap in the market. Might be business experience, so that you've been employed as let's say as an architect, and you decide that you want to set up your own business around architecture. It might be that you're a quantitative surveyor and you decide that you want to then set up your own business around quantitative surveying, have got that skill from your previous employment. And also market research. So you may have done some market research of maybe local area, and you've actually found a gap in the market. It might be something that you found nationally that you think there's a real gap in the market for certain products or certain services. Now, we kind of need to look at needs and wants, because businesses that look at needs and wants of their customers and they really kind of home in on that are businesses that are very successful, because they are meeting the needs and the wants of their customers. Because unless there is a need and there's a want for your product or your service, then your business isn't going to thrive. So entrepreneurs identify opportunities in the market that they can satisfy the needs and wants. And if there is a gap in the market and enterprise can fill that gap and then become as successful as SME, small business, small medium enterprise, and that can be established. Now, does the enterprise offer a solution to a problem? Is what you need to maybe think about. So what is the role of an entrepreneur? Well, the role of an entrepreneur is creating and setting up a business. It will involve a number of steps, okay? And this will include generating an idea, okay, asking if the idea can add value, conducting your market research, drawing up a business plan, deciding on a legal structure of your business, so thinking about your business ownership, and then raising the finance. And so that's kind of what an entrepreneur is useful. Now, they're also looking at running and developing a business, which will involve a number of activities. Okay, and these kind of things are like generating a customer base, making sure that you've got customers for your actual service or product, designing a marketing mix, sourcing supplies and managing your stock, keeping your financial records in check, making sure obviously taxes are being paid correctly, and that sort of thing. Abiding by any legislation that's coming out, so any new laws that are being put into place, that you're making sure that your business is meeting those, so that whether that be customer law, whether that be employee law, environmental, anything that might be affecting your business that you need to abide by. And then you're going to be looking at employing staff as well as an entrepreneur potentially. You might start off as a sole trader and it's just you, and then obviously as your business grows, you then might look at employing staff. So we're going to look at some motives for entrepreneurs. So why do entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs? Well, the first and foremost, probably one of the most popular motives is your financial motives. Okay, so profit maximization is quite often the main goal of a lot of businesses. Then that means to make as much profit as possible. So if you are talking about motives of why entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs, you talk about, your profit maximization. Try not to say more profit, because that's maybe something like a little not as high level. So I'd say, if you are talking about profit, you talk about profit maximization, and that's to kind of make as much profit as possible. So as we know, profit is your sales revenue take away your total cost. So profit maximization could be to make sure that obviously the business is running as economically as possible, that you're watching, how many employees that you're using, the bills that you're doing, the suppliers you're using, making sure that you're getting the best deals possible for your materials. It could be profit satisfying, to make enough profit to be satisfied by, but not purely motivated by profit. So this is kind of like you're making profit, your business is doing well because it is making profit, but it's not the only end all of the actual what you're wanting to do. You might want to make sure that you've got a nice work-life balance, that you're putting in family time, etc. So we also look at non-financial motives, because finance isn't always the main motive for people to become entrepreneurs. Okay, so non-financial motives are things like ethical stance, so to behave in a manner deemed to be morally correct. So this is to provide a good or service that means ethical beliefs. So, for example, cosmetics not to be tested on animals, or clothes to be made from fair trade cotton. So you're thinking about your ethics there. It could be a social entrepreneurship. Okay, motivated by supporting a cause rather than making a profit. So, you're supporting a local charity. You're maybe looking at something that's socially within the community, like a community cafe or something that is going to be, benefit something socially. Any surplus revenue earned is used to further support the cause. So it could be to support the community or fund research. If we think about cancer research, etc., it might be something that fund something that is obviously going to help people or kind of benefit a community. It could be independence, so they want to be their own boss, they want to make their own decisions, they want to make their own working hours. If they want to think about, if they want to start later in the day and then finish later at night, it might be something that they want to do, and they're not beholden to anybody, or they're not having to answer to anybody. So it could be something like that. They want to just be their own boss. And also home working. Some businesses will work from home, and that's kind of matching family commitments to work commitments and having work-life balance, something that's going to be important to that entrepreneur. So looking at characteristics of an entrepreneur, so what are the characteristics of them? Okay, so got a number of characteristics for an entrepreneur. Someone that's an opportunity spotter, someone that sees a gap in the market, someone that kind of can see, yeah, there's a good business idea here. That someone is creative. So, you can think outside the box. You can really think about different ways of doing things. You show initiative. Any business is never going to be successful if someone's just going to sit on the laurels and kind of just expect things to come to them. Entrepreneurs really show and take initiative and actually go out and do it for themselves. They aren't waiting for things to be handed to them on a silver platter. They're risk takers. Some people, like to take risks. Some people are more risk takers than others, and that might be why, not everybody would necessarily want to be a business owner, because they like to know that their paycheck is coming from a reliable source, that they know that where the next paycheck is coming from. Entrepreneurs don't necessarily. They're taking a risk. It might be that they're taking and putting their house on the line to start their new venture. It might be that they are using their life savings, and they don't know whether that's going to pay off, because 90% of businesses actually fail in the first 2 years. Is that going to pay off, or is it going to obviously risk everything? Need to be a positive thinker. Okay. Now we can't. Two ways with that. You can be a positive thinker, but you also need to be a realist as well. Okay, so if you've got a product or a service that you really are passionate about, and that you've got all the passion and drive, and you think it's the best thing since sliced bread, if you've got that, great. But however, you need to make sure that other people think that as well. So you can't just think it yourself and make it happen. You need to actually make sure that this product or service is something people want to buy. And some people that may be positive thinkers won't take criticism as well as they should do, or they basically ignore any negativity. And quite often negative responses are best, because it allows you to improve your product or your service. So yes, positive thinking, so that you can do it, and that you're trying to think of solutions to problems, but also being realistic, and making sure that your product is meeting needs and wants of customers, and you need to listen to customers. Hardworking, they need to be hardworking. They need to be self-motivated. Things aren't going to come to them straight away. It's going to take a lot of hard work, and they need to be motivated to do that. They need to be good decision makers, because they're going to have to make a lot of decisions that's going to affect their livelihood, if you like. They need to be a visionary. They need to see where they want this business to go. They want that where they see this business and what they want to do with it. Enthusiastic, because enthusiasm is infectious, and that's going to rub off on customers. It's going to rub off on people around them, to be really positive. And they need to be determined and persistent. So, if things get in their way, to keep going with it. Now, skills are slightly different. skills are things that can be learnt. Characteristics, I suppose, are more things that maybe somebody has naturally. I mean, some things can be worked on, for example, hard work, for example, but quite often somebody's hardworking and that's just their natural way of being. A skill is something that you're more likely to be able to learn. Okay, so things like communication, having good communication skills, that can be learned over time. You know, some people are more good communicators than others, but again, that is a skill, and the more that you do it and the more that you learn, the better you become with it. Literacy, again, is something that can be learnt. Numeracy, again, something can be learnt. Information technology, being good at sort of technology. Organisation, making sure that they can be organised and they have a good organisational routine. Problem solving, and then team working and making sure you're able to work in a team is going to be really important. So the importance of entrepreneurs. So with business activity, it can be classified into 3 sectors. So you've got your primary sector. So this is the extract of natural resources that can then be used to produce other things. So like farming, fishing, extracting minerals, that sort of thing is your primary sector. Your secondary sector is businesses that turn your raw materials into finished goods or components. So that's more your manufacturing. So that's your manufacturing process is your secondary sector. And then your tertiary sector is any business that is a service for businesses. So the businesses can be business to customers, that's a B2C, or it could be a business to business that, you know, it might be that particular business. So tertiary sector, so like logistics, so of haulage, things like that, they offer a service of taking goods from one place to another. That's like a business to business. And then your business to customer is your you know, your car insurance or your hairdressing, things like that. Okay, now the importance of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs and SMEs impact businesses in a number of ways. So it creates competition. Okay, so it can create competition, which means that, you know, companies don't have the monopoly on things, which keeps prices down. This is good for customers. So if you have competition, not so good for businesses, but it is good for customers because it keeps those prices down. You've got supplying goods and services. Okay, so you're able to do that. You offer specialism and expertise, and you buy goods and services. Now, entrepreneurs and SMEs impact the economy in a number of ways as well. It provides employment. You know, these are the bread and butter of the country, that keeps the country going. Those small, medium businesses that employ people, you know, are keeping the employment rate down, which means that then people aren't paying as much benefit or claiming as much benefit, and they're also paying more taxes. So that's going to be something that the government is wanting to encourage. So there is lots of help from the government for SMEs and entrepreneurs to start businesses, so that, you know, they're keeping the employment rate down, that taxes are being paid, and there is going to be less social benefits as well. So looking at stakeholders, so who are stakeholders? Well, they are anyone with an interest in the action of the business. So anyone that can be affected or is affected by a business. So these include things like your customers, okay? So employees, shareholders, any owners of the business, government, because obviously they're affected by you employing people and paying taxes, and local community around the business. So if there's, you know, a business that's going to potentially create antisocial behaviour, like a pub or restaurant, for example, or a takeaway that could impact on the local community, they would need to be sort of thought about. Suppliers, are they being paid on time? And then any financial institution, so anyone that you're borrowing money from, etc., are kind of what we call stakeholders. Sorry. Okay, so stakeholders need to be considered when making new decisions, because this can help avoid resistance to change. So if you're thinking about your stakeholders and you're thinking about your local community and you're thinking about how you're going to make sure that they're not going to be resistant to you starting your business, that is obviously going to help things. Businesses use stakeholder mapping to help inform your decision making. So this is mapping the relative power of each stakeholder group instead of the degree of interest. Now, this helps to inform management on how important each stakeholder group is, and therefore how to involve them should in the decision-making process. So if you look at one of these maps, so we're looking at the maps here with keeping satisfied. So this is high to low, potentially influential groups, but with little interest in the business. It may there be beneficial to consult with them and try to increase the level of interest. Now, the monitoring section is like your low power and your low level of interest, neither powerful or with high level of interest, and therefore only necessary to make minimum amount. High level of power and high level of interest, and these are to be managed really closely because these are an important group of stakeholders, and therefore the business should seek to involve them in decision making. And then you've got low level of interest but high power, and these are likely to be secondary stakeholders who have high level of interest. So the community but little power. Involving these stakeholders and keeping them up to date with developments can be good to build your relationships with them. So that's kind of like a stakeholder mapping of how they would do it. Now, it is difficult to meet all the needs of the stakeholders, so you kind of need to think about who are going to be the ones that are going to cause you maybe the most problems and try and make sure that you keep those happy. Stakeholders' needs may overlap, in which case they can join together and to increase their power. So like the community, for example, may support the employees when taking industrial action in order to strengthen their voice. However, stakeholders' needs may conflict, in which case the actions of one group may weaken the power of another. Now, this is, for example, suppliers may lower prices to try and encourage a business to stay in the UK, which may reduce the power of the shareholders wanting the business to relocate abroad for your lower costs. We're going to look at some exam questions around this particular topic. Okay, so one of the things was identify and explain 2 motives that encourage individuals to become entrepreneurs. Now, we talked about that, but if we look at the mark scheme around that, what you need to be looking at, you're getting 1 mark for identifying each motive and then 1 mark for the explanation of overall of 4 marks. So one of the motives is your financial reward, and you need to then go on to say something like the opportunity to earn more when owning a business, prefer to make their own decisions. So, for example, in control of what they do as opposed to being employed. You've got greater job satisfaction, which creating and building a business can be very enjoyable and allow individuals to attain certain goals they have set themselves. Passion and interest in what they produce, and they may enjoy producing a top quality product or investing in a new process. Could be to create employment. This may result of being redundant, so desiring to create work for others, and they just say any other appropriate motive briefly explained. So you're looking at saying what the motive is and then explaining it briefly. Another question, or 2-party question for this, is around entrepreneurs and the characteristics of entrepreneurs. So Britain has hit a record number of startup businesses as more aspiring entrepreneurs take the plunge. More than 600,000 new businesses were set to launch in 2016. according to Startup Britain, a government-backed national enterprise campaign. Describe 2 roles undertaken by an entrepreneur, and then explain 3 characteristics that entrepreneurs are likely to possess in order to help them succeed. So for this first one, you're looking at identifying a role and then description of the role, maximum of 2 marks. So you're looking for 2 of those. Okay, so first one would be maybe setting up, owning, leading a business, something around those lines. And as the owner entrepreneur will provide the finance to set the business up and also finance any growth that may occur. So, you know, you just explain a little bit about what the owner is going to be doing. Organisation, managing or planning of their business. So if you said something like that, this may range, for example, from setting up machinery, hiring staff to work in the business, and marketing the products or services on offer. Risk taking. There's no guarantee that a new business will succeed. In fact, more fail than success. So the entrepreneurs may well lose the money he initially put in to set up the business. So as long as you're like explaining what risk taking means, you know, you're making decision making, that you're going to be taking on various aspects of business, including finance, employment, marketing, and making decisions around those. Create employment, so that's the majority of employees work for small enterprises. Acting as an innovator, bringing new products, services to the market, so securing finance, money they need to fund the business can be raised both internally and externally. So it could be securing bank loans for the business. Formulate a business plan, so set out vision for development of the business, and undertake market research to establish the degree of competition and making sure that you know what the gaps in the markets are and how to actually tackle those. Now, looking at characteristics, I'm not going to massively go through this, I'll kind of skim through it, but you're looking here for 3 marks. And 3 marks for year 3. So award 1 mark for each characteristics identified and a one mark for each explanation. So you're looking at saying about 3 characteristics. So talk about like initiative would be one thing, and then describe what initiative would mean and how they would go about showing initiative. Maybe having confidence would be another one. Looking at understanding the markets and making sure that, you know, they've done their market research, they can make judgments, they're going to be taking risks, that they need to be committed, determined, motivated, that they need to be a good judge of people, innovative, leadership qualities, or anything else we had on the list sort of further back, you could have sort of explained with regards to that as well. Okay. So finished entrepreneurs and SMEs, we are looking at business planning now. So we're going to go through that. It's not too long, this particular section here. So business planning. What are the components of a business plan? Well, a business plan is an important part of setting up a business. So it's going to be used both internally by the entrepreneur and externally by if you're wanting to get any banks, into external investors, or anyone to provide grants, they want to see a business plan. And the components of a business plan are as follows. So you've got an executive summary, so that's a synopsis of the entire plan, looking at the most important points. The business and products or services, the market, the size, share, competitors, the marketing strategy, the skills of the entrepreneur and other key employees, operations, how are you going to go about sort of making the product, what's the plan, and then, you know, your financial forecasts. So what's the purpose of a business plan? So the purpose of a business plan is, first of all, to secure any external funding. Banks, potential partners, venture capitalists, business angels will not give or invest in businesses unless they see a solid business plan, so they know what you're doing and what is going to be happening with the money that they're going to invest. So if you've ever seen programs like Dragon Den, The Apprentice, they before they invest, they look at sort of the business plan around the business, to ensure that the firms develop a healthy financial structure, that they know what they're doing with finances, because obviously they're getting money to invest in their business, they are going to want to know that their finances are in order. To help identify problem areas that the business might face, as a focus to set targets and check on firm's development. This is very handy for the owner of the business so that they know where they want the business to go, and they can obviously make sure it's been reviewed regularly, that they're updating targets, they're updating objectives, so that a business plan is fluid. It should never be something that is, right, that's done, let's move on to something else. A business plan should change, and to provide realistic expectations of what can be achieved. So it's important that within the business plan that any objectives and things that are set are realistic. So they're SMART. So what we mean by SMART targets is that they're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're realistic, and they are time-based. The running and expanding, developing a business plan or business. Once business has been set up and becomes established, and it requires managing on a day-to-day basis. Now, the entrepreneur is often also the hands-on person making daily decisions, at least in the early years. So this involves things like managing resources, like stock, your personnel, finances, making marketing decisions about aspects of the market mix, such as what price to charge, how to promote the business, looking at dealing with customers, making sure they're happy, dealing with any complaints, and maintaining those financial records, which is going to be really important. If we look at some exam questions around business planning. So this is from 2018 paper. This is Gemma Cooper, is an award-winning businesswoman and founder and managing director of High Therapies Beauty Salon and Gemma Co Beauty Care. Her awards include National Young Entrepreneur for Venus Women's Awards 2013, where she is now its national ambassador. In her role as ambassador, the key piece of advice she offers to young people wishing to set up entrepreneur is put together a good business plan, which helps you get your ideas out of your head and onto paper in structured form. Adapted Startup Britain, 3rd of October 2016. So your two questions here, two parts of the question, is identify and describe two components of a business plan to someone wishing to start up a business, and explain two reasons why Gemma advises young people wishing to start up as an entrepreneur to put together a good business plan. Okay, so you were looking at that. So it's 8 marks altogether, 4 for each. So for that first question about the two key components of the business plan to someone wishing to start up a business, you're looking for 4 marks. So you're looking at 2 parts for the question. So 1 mark for each component and 1 mark for the description. Okay, so you could, I always try and say, things to think about with you looking at business plan is obviously your introduction, your synopsis of the business, your description of what the business is, how it's going to be run, and kind of the main points. A financial forecast section to kind of show how the cash flow is, what the profit and loss forecast is, break-even chart, that sort of thing. Your market research, so a marketing section, which includes things about market research, primary, second market research that is relevant to the market within which the business tends to operate, and a personal statement of how many employees they need. So, not necessarily personnel statement. So I'd maybe say human resource section when you're going to be talking about how many employees that you need, what the skills will require. I try and stick to, the 4 functions of business along with an introduction. So if you did need to do anything more, you try and stick to, section on operations, section of marketing where you're talking about your market research, how you're going to promote the product, all that kind of thing. A finance section, which will include things like financial forecast of how your cash flow is going to be, and then an operations section about how you're going to go about either making the product or conducting the service, what's going to be the important parts of that. And then the second bit to this question is explain 2 reasons why Gemma advises young people wishing to set up as an entrepreneur to put together a good business plan. Well, here you're looking for 2 reasons. You're looking for AO1 for 2 marks and AO2 for 2 marks, and you're getting 1 mark for each valid reason and 1 mark for each valid explanation. Okay, so things that would be handy to put in there is the fact that you know, survival, to help a business survive the difficulties that they encounter when they're operating in a competitive market, making sure that the market research has been done to make sure that people are wanting to have that product or service, and kind of talk around that. That a plan is provides a good focus on lots of different issues, that you're able to set and be very specific about smart targets, that the realistic targets that you need to set, and that you need to then sort of review those on a regular basis. Is to convince potential leaders that businesses is creditworthy, so that, you know, bank managers are willing to support a loan application, things like that. And new enterprises can use a business plan to monitor their progress. So looking at those smart targets, making sure that they are on track to meet those smart targets over the course of the year, and then change them as you go. So if one smart target has been reached, you then set yourself another one. It's not just, oh, that's been done, we'll leave it. Set yourself another. What are you going to do next, and make sure it's being reviewed regularly. Okay, so that's where we are up to with that. It's slightly shorter than normal, but my next session is probably going to be a lot longer, because we're going to be looking at markets, and I know that that is quite a hefty section of this topic, or this unit. So that will probably be a longer session than this particular session. Okay, so I will see you next time, and have a lovely week.